The National Hurricane Center did highlight this area yesterday. Zooming on in, you can see the X where it's at. It's embedded within all of this moisture, this shower and thunderstorm activity that's over South Florida, the Bahamas, even stretching back through Cuba. This is kind of a stalled boundary that moved in a couple of days ago. It's brought some unsettled weather to Florida. And yes, it's going to lift back to the north. And a couple of our forecast models are hinting at the possibility of it spinning up briefly before it quickly moves out into the Atlantic. I mean, you can look at the development chances. They're very low, 10% over the next 2 days, 10% over the next 7 days. What this is really going to do, it's going to keep bringing us tropical moisture to the state of Florida through Wednesday and into Thursday, and then it's going to move out into the Atlantic, bringing some tropical moisture to the coastline of the Carolinas. But you can kind of see some of these wind barbs. They're trying to close off there, and if this can hold, if this tropical moisture can hold out over the Atlantic waters for any period of time, it'll probably quickly spin up, but it is going to quickly move out into the Atlantic and take all of that tropical moisture with it and really not impact anyone. So that's the kind of storm we like to see this time of year. We're actually going to be tracking another front that's going to come in, kind of stall out over the area as that system moves out into the Atlantic. This is kind of what we look for this time of year. Late season fronts that come in, stall out, and they take advantage of, you know, the relatively warmer waters of the Gulf. We have the Gulf Stream that's going up down the eastern seaboard as well, and they can kind of see quick spin-ups, if you will, this time of the year. But really, the impacts from this is we're looking at some moisture over the next few days. First, it is already impacting Florida. We're seeing a lot of tropical moisture down in South Florida today. We had it in the Tampa Bay area yesterday. And as that tropical moisture moves to the coast of the Carolinas, you can see some of these brighter colors showing up through Saturday. Some of this rainfall forecast accounting for maybe 2 up to 3 inches, with localized areas seeing maybe 4 to 6 inches of rain if you can get some of these downpours to sit along the coast. Now, this is the GFS model, something that we talk a lot about here on Tracking the Tropics. And then, of course, we also show the European model, and it's basically showing a very similar setup. A wet, a soggy forecast through the next couple of days for the state of Florida, and then that moisture is going to move out into the Atlantic. There's a couple of differences. Notice these brighter colors stay kind of off the coastline of the Carolinas. So the European model suggesting that center of moisture staying a little bit out over the Atlantic waters, keeping the heaviest rain there. But that's what we're looking at, is some rainfall with that system there. That one is not the one that we are going to be worried about this year on Tracking the Tropics. But this is where we look during the month of June. Very typical to see that this time of year. We look in closer to home into the warm waters of the Gulf, maybe into the Caribbean a little bit, and up the eastern seaboard, because those fronts come in, they stall out, and we can see quick spin-ups utilizing some of that warm Gulf waters. As we look to the rest of the season, though, the forecast, NOAA and CSU calling for a slightly above average season, not calling for quite as active of a season as what we had last year. NOAA's calling for 13 to 19 named storms. Mind you, average is 14 named storms. CSU is calling for a little bit higher than that. Hurricanes, 6 to 10. Colorado State's calling for 9 hurricanes. 4 major hurricanes from them, and then NOAA right there in that range, 3 to 5. So we are going to be watching every single thing that the National Hurricane Center highlights this year. That one is the first one of many. Don't want to get you concerned. One thing that we have also been seeing a lot on social media is the GFS pointing to that long range forecast. It's been shared a lot, where it's spinning up something over the Caribbean and bringing it into the Gulf. That one has not come to fruition yet either. So something that we're going to continue to see a lot over the next 6 months, likely the GFS producing those long range storms. But you can see when we start to see that typical activity ramp up, it is not just yet.
No, but can we talk about everyone posting the GFS 10 days out?
Oh my gosh.
Stop.
Please stop.
Just don't do it.
Stop.
So fill me in, elaborate. So what's exactly going on? So, because that's a part of this show, everybody, is kind of quieting some of the easily excitable people on social media and bringing you the reality of what's actually going on out there.
So what I tell people to think about is I get paid whether I post anything on Facebook or not today. I get paid to do my job as a meteorologist. There are a lot of people on social media that are getting paid through social media. So if they don't post, and if they don't post something that gets a lot of likes and shares and interaction, they don't get paid that day. And so that leads them to make different decisions than I would on social media, and some of them that I would consider not the best decision, because if this is never going to happen, if that's never going to occur, if it's too uncertain, Why post it? Why upset people? And so it's led to the fact that we have to talk about on television and on these programs, no, we're not going to see a category 4 hurricane in 10 days in the Gulf. That's just not going to happen. Or the confidence is so low, it's not even worth worrying about at this point. And so I just want people to think about who they follow on social. Think before you share one of those posts. Is that person getting paid today, whether or not they posted that or not? And what are the motives? If the confidence is that low, it doesn't deserve any time in your brain or your day.
Yeah, and especially coming off of such a terrible season for Florida, with so many folks are going to be recovering for the next, couple of years. There's just a heightened sense of anxiety, and storm anxiety is a real thing. We saw it here after the record 2020 season, when the northern Gulf Coast seemed like we had a storm almost every 2 weeks, and so and folks, their nerves are just heightened now. So in a very stressful time, as folks are trying to rebuild their lives, get everything back to what will be their new normal, the last thing you want to do is to scare, or quite frankly, scare them with nonsense. And so that's why you need to trust your local sources, your local meteorologists, and the folks that are trained to interpret model data, interpret numerical weather data, so that we know, give folks the information that's right and accurate, and not just needlessly trying to stir up feelings as we head into, as you guys just mentioned, what will likely be a bit more active of a hurricane season this year.
So I want to touch on that with all three of our panelists here. Our meteorologist joining us on the season debut of Tracking the Tropics, again live from the Stream Center across all our many platforms. This is a call to action for, I see all of our Facebook commenters commenting right now. Isaac, Ian, Dennis, Henry, Cliff. If you'd like to comment, use any of our hashtags on your screen, and we're going to feature your comments in just a moment. But Rebecca, Amanda, Ed, what are we expecting this year with hurricane season? Are there any trends that have developed over the last several weeks, whether it's from NOAA, CSU, or something that you noted? Is there anything that you're watchful for this year? Because last year in particular, Florida got hit with a hammer. Let's just call it what it is. Florida was impacted by Helene, by Milton, by a couple of other storms as well. What's something in particular that you're looking out for this year? Ed, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Atlantic Basin, generally speaking, we're not really seeing much of a strong hint towards a stronger El Nino or La Nina cycle. We're kind of in this ENSO neutral phase, we call it. So water temperatures in the Pacific are running close to average. So that's what we would generally classify as a neutral phase. The other thing I noted is, remember this time last year, CSU and NOAA all predicted kind of what we were calling hyperactive seasons, and with good reason. We had evidence of a La Nina pattern shaping up, very, very warm, near historic warmth across the Atlantic Basin. Water temperatures are still running generally above average, but not to the extent that we were seeing this year. So when the forecasts were released, they weren't really shocking to, I think, to most of us, trending a little bit towards an above average season, not quite as significant as last year, at least in terms of the numbers in the forecast. So that, I mean, it really wasn't all that shocking, but these forecasts are great for us to talk about with the public, but they shouldn't have any bearing in how you prepare for the season.